Hello people who decided to watch this video. My name's Joey and today I'm going to be talking about a book that I recently read called The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. First of all, let me say that this book really wowed me. Took me a long time to come up with that joke, let me tell you. So this review is going to be split up into three different parts. The first part's going to be all historical context and give you guys a little background so that way you guys know what's going on during the time that this book takes place. The second part's going to be a summary of the book. But this is going to be very spoiler heavy, so I'll leave you guys a button or something that you can press so that way you can skip ahead and skip all the spoilers if you don't want it to be spoiled. The third part is going to be the analysis, and that's where I'm going to talk about how I felt about the book, talk about some of the overarching tones, some of the overarching ideas, and finally I'll finish the review by giving it a score out of 5. One thing I am going to say about this book is that it is extremely explicit. It talks about things like sex, rape, sexual acts, talks about murder, talks about mongoose, faceless men, spirits, all that. So if you don't like explicit things and explicit things make you uncomfortable a little bit, then maybe don't read this book. But let me tell you, if you can get past all the swearing and all the sexual tones and the mongoose and stuff, it's a fantastic book. But I'll go into more of that near the end. Now it's time for the review. To read this book, there's actually not a lot of context needed, because the author Junot Diaz gives all of this directly to us. He either does this through giving us explicit historical context, like he does in the first part with the epigraph about the Fuku, or he gives this through one of his many annotations that are strewn throughout the entire book. For example, Trujillo, a massively influential character, is explained in a single annotation on the second page. Granted, this annotation is very long, but he's explained by Diaz as fuckface and as being an awful tyrant for all the people who, as Diaz says, missed their mandatory 2 seconds of Dominican history. And by the way, this sassiness is completely palpable throughout the rest of the novel, so be on the lookout for that. It's a lot of fun. So while some context is helpful to know going in, like knowing that it takes place between the 60s and the 90s, a lot of the context is given by Diaz himself because he knows that his audience isn't going to be purely Dominican. He knows that a lot of his audience actually aren't going to know about this history at all. So he tries to not only shame them for not knowing this history, but tries to educate them as well, because this is such a horrifying event, and he wants to get this out there because as of right now, a lot of schools not only don't teach this subject, but they actively avoid this subject entirely. Now to get into the actual summary of the book. So this book actually takes place in the Dominican Republic and New Jersey, flip-flopping between the two as different stories are told. It follows the life of Oscar de Leon as he transforms, growing from a young playboy to an older fat nerd to a lovable older fat nerd. However, we see all of this through a third perspective, through a third-person point of view, not through Oscar's own eyes, so everything has to be taken with a grain of salt as to how Oscar was living and how Oscar was feeling. Along the way, we actually start to hear about important people in Oscar's life, like his sister Lola and his mother Belly. These people were mostly in his family, but they were still important parts of his life nonetheless. Belly's family actually was heavily influenced by Trujillo's ruling and Trujillo's tyranny, where he actually threw her father into jail, subsequently killing him, and actually killed her mother and sisters through the power of Fuku, a murky area that's as hard to explain in person as it is in the book. We then see Oscar go through college, where he gets his nickname Oscar Wilde. Here he tries to better himself by writing, by working out, and by becoming a better person in general, with the help of his one and only friend, Junior. After this, we see him go back to the Dominican Republic with his family, where he meets the love of his life, Yuban. Unfortunately though, Yuban is actually a prostitute. Not only is she a prostitute, but she has a boyfriend who is a highly ranked police officer. This would deter most people, but not Oscar. His love is only fueled and rages on for Yuban, to the point that the police officer actually kills Oscar in the end. The book then ends with Junior giving closure to not only himself and where he is, but also to what happened to Oscar, and what happened to his books and letters, and what happened to his family. Now to get into the analysis and how I personally felt about the book. And personally, I felt that the book was fucking phenomenal. The fact that it's such a casual explanation as to what happened to Oscar de Leon and the fact that it was so blunt and real makes you really bond with the narrator, makes you really like the narrator. Even though he's a playboy and he's kind of an asshole, by the end, all that story goes away, and you like him a lot more than you did at the beginning. To complement this very casual narration, Diaz actually goes into exposing a lot of ideologies for how bullshit they really are. For Americans, we don't know anything about Trujillo, and he says how it's ridiculously dumb, not blatantly, but he implies this, that we don't learn this history, that we don't learn about this horrific event that happened only 40 years ago, which I agree with. However, on the other side of the coin, he talks about Dominicans and how their idea of masculinity is just plain stupid, even going so far as to say this blatantly in the end with a conversation between Oscar's abuela and his tío, where his abuela says, "Not even God loves a puta," but his tío says, "But everybody knows that God loves a puto." Now the difference here is that puta and puto both mean whore in Spanish. However, with an A, it refers to a woman, and with an O, it refers to a man, saying that God doesn't love whore women, but he loves whorish men. This book was very impressive, and definitely left me with a lot of awe near the end. The fact that it was written so realistically, and the fact that it was about love and masculinity, reminded me of another movie that I saw recently called La La Land. Of course, these are very different in their characters and their plots and settings and whatnot, but they're very similar in their themes about love and realism, leaving me to give this book a 4 out of 5. It's not perfect, seen definitely with the dialogue being kind of messy and a little muddy, but it's definitely worth the read. Thank you guys for watching this video, and please leave a like and comment down below on what you thought of the video, and subscribe if you want to see other videos like this. You can buy this book for 16 bucks on Amazon, written by Junot Diaz. Fantastic, definitely recommend it. Thank you guys for watching, see you later.